And before we begin, I believe Supervisor Alcorn is joining us tonight, so I'd like to introduce him and turn to him for any opening remarks. Supervisor Alcorn.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm just coming from another meeting, but I'm not driving.
Okay.
Thank you very much for doing this. We found, at least in the Reston area of Hunter Mill District, the Capital Bikeshare to be very popular. It's been a great addition. So I'm very excited to see the expansion discussed and looking forward to hearing any feedback from folks. So thank you.
Thank you. And I would also like to introduce Jenny Phipps from Supervisor Faust's office, who is also joining us tonight. And then also joining us tonight is my colleague, Zach Desjardins, the Capital Bikeshare Program Manager for Fairfax County Department of Transportation. So to start off, I'd like to explain how Capital Bikeshare works for those who might not be as familiar with the program. Capital Bikeshare is a bicycle transit service that allows users to rent a bike and to ride to any one of our 700 plus stations in the DC metro area. And Capital Bikeshare is a docked bikeshare station, meaning that most users take trips from one station to another. And then one important function of Capital Bikeshare in Fairfax County is as a first and last mile connection to and from metro stations, offering people who might live or work within a mile of a metro station with a faster, more efficient way to get to and from the metro than walking or driving. And then in terms of ridership fees, you have the option to join Capital Bikeshare for $95 a year, which offers unlimited 45-minute rides on the classic bikes. And if you'd rather not commit to a membership, you can also pay $1 to unlock a bike and then 5 cents for every minute of your ride. Capital Bikeshare also has a program that offers all low-income residents unlimited 60-minute rides on all bikes, including the e-bikes. And you can find more information about that program on the Capital Bikeshare website. So in terms of the primary ways in which people use Capital Bikeshare, as I mentioned, it's a very popular way to access metro or bus stops, which is part of the reason we're proposing these stations in and around the Innovation Center metro. And many of our metro stations in Fairfax County already have a Capital Bikeshare station adjacent to them or very close to them. And again, we're just hoping to continue that trend of adding bikeshare stations near metro stations and bus stops throughout the country. Or county, excuse me. Capital Bikeshare can also be used for errands, appointments, and rides along trails. So for example, we have a few stations close to the W&OD trail. Because this is a docked bikeshare program, one-way trips are also facilitated. So you can just drop the bike off at a station when you're done with your ride and leave it there. And again, these bikes are really beneficial for replacing those trips that might feel too long to walk, but also might feel a bit too short to warrant driving a car. So the county was recently awarded a grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation called the Transportation Alternatives Program, which provides us with funding for 10 additional stations, as well as the purchase of 69 e-bikes. 5 of these stations are being proposed in Dranesville District, and 1 station is being proposed in Hunter Mill District. And in the future, we'll be holding additional meetings for the proposed stations in other supervisor districts. I also wanted to give some insight into how we selected the locations for the stations that we are proposing. So in Dranesville, there's currently only 1 Capital Bikeshare station, the West Falls Church Metro Station. So we're really hoping to expand access to bikeshare in that district. And then in Hunter Mill District, as Supervisor Alcorn mentioned, we already have a very successful Capital Bikeshare network in Reston. So we're hoping to build upon that existing network and expand Capital Bikeshare access to other parts of the district. We also want to provide those first and last mile trips to and from the Innovation Metro Station, and also provide connection between residential areas and nearby businesses. And it's also worth noting that before we propose a station location, it must meet technical requirements such as solar access and various safety requirements. So these 6 stations have met all of those criteria. Any proposed station locations also need to meet programmatic requirements such as residential density of the area, as well as their ability to attract high enough ridership and revenue. So for the next part of this presentation, I'll be showing the 6 station locations that we are proposing across both districts. And here is a list of those stations. And then here is a map of those proposed stations. And as you can see, they're all fairly close to the Innovation Center Metro station. So for each of these proposed stations, we have photos on the ground with a footprint of the station's boundaries, as well as imagery showing an aerial view of the station's location. And here are both of those views for the proposed Innovation Center Metro South station. And the station will be on the sidewalk just outside of the metro entrance. Next, we have Carta Way and Sayward Boulevard. This proposed station location is in an existing no parking zone just south of the Innovation Center Metro. And we chose this location to serve adjacent apartment buildings, hotels, restaurants, and retail in this area. And here is Coppermine Road and River Birch Road. This proposed location is also in an existing no parking zone. So again, we will not need to repurpose any parking spaces. And we chose this location to provide access to bike share to the residents in the adjacent townhome community. Next, we have Dulles Technology Drive and Sunrise Valley Drive. In installing the station, we'd be repurposing 2 unmarked street parking spaces. And we chose this location to serve residents in the surrounding apartments and townhouses, as well as office workers in the nearby buildings. And this is Woodland Park Road and Cooperative Way. And so this proposed location is in an existing no parking zone, and we chose this location to serve office workers at the adjacent Edge Connects building, as well as residents in nearby townhomes and apartments. And finally, here is our proposed station in Hunter Mill District, McNair Farms Drive and Thomas Jefferson Drive. And with this location, we would be repurposing 2 street parking spaces. And we selected this location to serve the residents of the adjacent townhouses and apartment buildings, and also to provide connection to and from the village center at Dulles Retail Center. So for the last part of this presentation, I'm going to talk about the new electric bikes that are now part of Capital Bikeshare. So since 2020, we've had e-bikes that have been provided by our contractor as part of our system. If you're familiar with their system, they're the smaller black e-bikes, but more recently, we've introduced a newer model of e-bike, which are the gray bikes you may have seen around the region. So with our TAP grant, as I mentioned, we plan to acquire about 69 more of those newer e-bikes for the county, which is great because so far they've proven to be very popular. From when we first rolled them out until August 2023, e-bike trips accounted for 14% of Capital Bikeshare trips in Fairfax County, despite only making up about 8% of our bike share fleet. And then additionally, buying our own e-bikes just ensures that we will continue to have e-bikes in our system, which is important because our contractor eventually plans to phase out those black e-bikes that they've been providing for the past few years. And then one other unique feature with these e-bikes is that they can be locked to a public bike rack instead of a docking station anywhere within a quarter mile of a station. So users aren't quite as limited to just going from station to station. However, it's worth noting that most trips made in the county are still starting or ending at a dock station. And then here is a picture of those new gray e-bikes that we've already purchased and will be purchasing some more as part of our grant. And as I mentioned, we have established service areas for the e-bikes, so they actually won't function outside of those service areas. And this is just that service area for Reston, and then the service area for the Tysons and Merrifield areas. And anywhere within those service areas, the user is able to lock the e-bikes to bike racks within a quarter-mile of a Capital Bikeshare station, as you can see in this photo to the left here. And so that just about concludes tonight's presentation. In terms of next steps, we will continue to work with VDOT through the federal grant process to obtain permits for each of these stations. And if all goes smoothly, we'll aim for installing the stations in 2024. For the next 2 weeks, we'll be accepting public comment, and you can submit comments via email, phone, or mail to Fairfax County Department of Transportation. And all of that information is found right up here on the screen. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open up the meeting for questions and comments. To ask a question, you'll just need to raise your virtual hand, which is located at the top of your screen next to the 3 dots. The moderator will enable your microphone and call on you to ask your questions. And when you're finished with your question, just please lower your hand. And when you're called on, go ahead and unmute your microphone and ask your question or provide your comment. And once you've asked your question, just be sure to mute yourself again. And if you're calling into the meeting on your phone, you can press *5 to raise your hand, and then press *6 to unmute yourself. And then once you've asked your question or made your comment, just press *6 to mute yourself again and *5 to lower your hand. And those instructions are also up here on the slide. All right.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to mute you. And now you can unmute yourself.
I think he's still muted, Zach.
I hit that. Okay. Yep. Mike, you're able to unmute yourself?
You'll have to hit unmute, but you should have permission to do that.
All right, let me try something else here.
Oh, we can hear you now.
Yeah.
Heard some feedback, but didn't quite hear a question there.
The installation.
Oh, sorry, could you say that one more time? You got cut off there. We're still not catching that. Were you able to hear that, Zach?
Yeah, Mike, if you're not able to, we're getting some feedback. So if you're not able to your question, feel free to send us an email or give us a phone call. I'm gonna have the answer that way too.
Okay, I just changed. Can you hear me better now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, I was on Bluetooth, and I just plugged it in. So I just ballpark time frame when we can expect to see these.
So right now we're waiting on another jurisdiction's contract to be approved at the down at Virginia Department of Transportation. We need to approve that. We need to put it out in the field. That's going to take quite a few months to do. So we're hoping probably middle of 2024, best case. So it unfortunately takes a little bit of time, the federal contracting process and using federal funds.
Okay, and just you said something about I'm not familiar with the electric bikes at all. You said it was restricted to a certain area.
Yeah. So,
So-
oh, you can finish your question. Sorry, go ahead.
No. That's basically my question. I'm assuming that I guess I'm understanding what you're saying. It's like a you leave the area and it stops working, or how does that work?
So to unlock the electric bike, you'll be able to ride it outside of that service area. You won't be able to stop your ride and lock it outside that service area without $25. If you leave it in the service area, and Hannah, can you cycle back to that slide?
Yeah.
If you leave it within a service area, it's only a $2 fee, and if the electric program, we actually waive that fee. And so that's how we it's a way to kind of keep bikes from going too far afield, so to speak.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So they won't fully stop working. Because as you can see in this map here, it looks like someone rode one outside of the service area, but they were probably charged for doing so.
Okay.
If they tried to lock it up.
Yeah, I was just curious. I encountered one parked right next to the WNOD, and I thought that was unusual, but it was. I don't know if it was. Yeah, it might have been within a quarter mile of the station. It was in Reston. Anyway, thanks.
Yep. Thanks for your questions. All right. Do we have any other questions? Okay, I'll give it a few more seconds, but not seeing any other questions.
If you didn't get a chance to ask a question, or if you have a question later, feel free to send us an email at bikefairfax@fairfaxcounty.gov, or if you'd like to give us a call, they'll through to my number, and I'll be happy to answer your question that way as well.
So not seeing any additional questions, so we will go ahead and conclude the session. Supervisor Elkhorn, would you like to make any closing remarks?
No, just thanks for holding this session, and appreciate the feedback we got.
Yep, thank you. And before we close out the meeting, I'd just like to remind everyone to submit any questions or comments or feedback by October 20th via mail, phone, or email to bikefairfax@fairfaxcounty.gov. So this concludes our meeting on Capital Bikeshare expansion in Dranesville and Hunter Mill districts. A recording of this meeting will be available on the Fairfax County Department of Transportation Capital Bikeshare webpage in the next day or so. And thank you again for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your participation and attendance. Have a good night.